Welcome back to the channel. You know what's amazing? Everything that we're witnessing right now. We're living through a historical moment, no doubt about it. And yes, I firmly believe that there's a setup, a rigging of crypto. Crypto is the golden goose, the golden egg. It's the easiest way that they're going to make massive amounts of wealth, and they know it. And they have it right where they want it. No one's really paying attention to the intricacies of what's going on. I'm going to show you why. Now, here's something that most people are just going to gloss over. They're not going to look deeply into. I'm going to put it in front of you right now. This article is titled, wait. Bear with me one moment. Let me scroll to the top. I was reading the article. This article is titled, Fed's Warsh Selects Treasury Aid. There's a few things here going on. Hang in there with me. Treasury Aid, Schwab. So there's a Treasury aid, so there is a U.S. Treasury tie-in. No, not because they're a Treasury aid, but because the person that they're hiring literally currently works for the U.S. Treasury. U.S. Treasury domination and sabotage about to go through the roof. What does that do to the Fed? Let me calm it down for you, because some people can't handle the intensity. What we've seen so far, them sabotaging and upsetting the balance when it comes to liquidity is bullish for XRP and liquidity tokens. The U.S. Treasury sabotaging the Fed, which we've been tracking for quite some time now. That's not speculation. You can't have the U.S. Treasury coming out saying two different things last year, which paused the Fed. This is why the Fed couldn't go so deep into quantitative tightening. No, quantitative easing. My apologies. That's why they couldn't go deep into quantitative easing. Because if they do that, while the Treasury came out, they made a statement that we read, especially the members only section, and said, we're going to issue liquidity also. We're thinking about it. They didn't commit to it, but we know now when the Treasury says something, if the Fed takes certain actions, they will do that. All right. So if they issue liquidity and the Fed issues liquidity simultaneously, you have higher inflation. Guess who gets the blame? The Fed. This has always been about, they want to dominate the Fed. They don't want any independence of the Fed. And thus, you have bear witness to the gutting of the Fed. All of this leans to what? Liquidity problems. And I showed people, listen, there's a reason Wall Street said we're leaning towards the public aspect. There's a reason they all have XRP treasuries. There's a reason why they all tested out XRP. Even JP Morgan, they used the XRPL. Why? So you have that aspect. Wait, we're going to get back to this article. I got to unfold all of this. You're getting fresh, good. This is a good angle for you to look into if you have any researcher in your body, in your soul, in your mind. So you have that. Then they couldn't do quantitative tightening because of the TGA. The TGA of the U.S. Treasury withdraws liquidity, causes massive problems with reserves. This leads to fragmentation. Interoperability layer, fragmentation, bullish. Liquidity problems, liquidity token, bullish. That's one angle. So the Treasury aspect. So Fed's Warsh selects Treasury aide Schwab as an advisor in leadership. Schwab. So of course, the first thing I'm looking into is, hey, wait a minute, that name sounds familiar. Is this person related to Klaus Schwab? No. But I did look into that just in case. I'm like, wait a minute, there's something suspicious. Why this person so quickly, so certainly? And why is there a veil over this individual's thoughts on everything? A veil over their thoughts on everything. I can't find a whole lot on this individual. Oh, they work behind the scenes. Right. But there's not a veil on who they're connected to. Which Schwab are they connected to? They're connected to Charles Schwab. You know, of the Charles Schwab company. What's their stance on crypto? Oh, they're super bullish from what I've read, super bullish on crypto. That's her grandfather. You don't see what's going on here? You have a political environment where they're all super bullish on crypto. One, you have a U.S. Treasury that backs them because the leader, Scott Bessent, has a great relationship with those who are super bullish and who are in politics, who are super bullish on crypto. Then the Fed, which has been getting dominated in their independence, is no more, even though the mainstream media is pretending they're still questioning Fed independence. Then the Fed brings in an individual who currently works for the U.S. Treasury that's family is heavily interested and super bullish on crypto. The setup is there. There's a reason for everything. There's no coincidences. That's impossible. Conditions lead to cause and effect, and effects give rise to other causes, and those causes give rise to other effects. It's an infinite domino effect. It could have been anyone. Why this one? They have the connections for the collection, folks. They showed you in thousands. They investigated thousands of people in the financial industry for rigging of the markets. I'm not saying that's what's going on here. I'm just saying you might want to take note of that. Let me read just a little tidbit here, okay? I'm a little fired up. This is fantastic. As a researcher, this is what you want to get your hands on. Yes, I'm excited. Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh selected Samantha Schwab, a senior Treasury aide, to serve as a leadership advisor. Schwab, who serves as the principal deputy chief of staff to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, of all people. Scott Bessent is connected to those who are outright bullish on native cryptos. Let's establish that. Scott Bessent himself mysteriously is just super bullish on stablecoins, despite all the drawbacks of stablecoins that myriad professionals have spoken about. Right. And if we are to believe that this Scott Bessent is an erudite, a wise, a perspicacious individual, we would have to believe that they know about the negatives of stablecoins, and yet they don't speak of them and are 100% all in on pushing the Trojan horse stablecoins through the system, not only in the US, but globally. Knowing that if the systems go down, they would need externalized liquidity, which would come from real world asset tokenization of all kinds, real value that they don't want you thinking about. They want you to believe that all these cryptos, including Bitcoin and bank coins, they have no value, when they're the only thing that has real value that's going to flow through it. There's currently flowing through it right now. Actually, the gold, digital gold and silver and palladium been moving across chain just in small amounts. This is going to be bigger in the future. But they know that. So those prices are going to explode. They're going to need liquidity. They're going to need interoperability. Trust will be at an all-time low. The small and medium-sized banks going into business for themselves will need to connect. They will definitely use that opportunity if there's a systemic event to go into business for themselves, to rescue themselves using native bank coin blockchains. I don't know how to better put that. They're already doing that. Let me guess. That Swift news has people blowing in the wind again. Even though I exposed their system, it's the same system. We'll touch on that in a moment and rip the veil off that again for the 1,000th time. They are not what they appear to be. How could they be? China's not going to be using them. Europe, supposed to be allies with the U.S., have openly stated countless times they're moving away from U.S.-based systems. They named SWIFT as something they're moving away from. Everyone's moving away from the Southeast Asia is moving away from SWIFT. How many people in the BRICS nations? So come on, SWIFT is a done deal. They're not what they appear to be, but I understand from their angle, they have to present themselves as strong, right? Like they're doing something significant. But we'll get to that in a moment. Let's get back to this article here. So Schwab, who serves as the principal deputy chief of staff to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, is that not suspicious to you? Why did they? It was a few of them, but I just remember, I believe it was Stuart Alderati. Were they so certain that so many banks were going to utilize the XRPL in the United States? You don't say that without having taken a bunch of meetings, without having heard some. These types of individuals don't just speak willy-nilly off the top of their head. It doesn't work that way. Although they may say something from time to time that they shouldn't have said. Why do you say that? Why were they all so certain? They never reneged on that. They never took that back. Right. They know what I know. They know what you know now about this, about the real situation within not only the United States, the global financial system is all fragmented. They don't trust each other. They don't have real liquidity, and the numbers they're showing to people are not real. But the people are not going to take the time to really look in deep. You probably have, so you've seen it. They're not real. It's the same way when they talk about the economy. They're very particular about what they provide and what they say and how they say it, because what they present is not real. The whole jobs thing is not real. Oh, man, you know, there's less people. They'll say something as an example. Then we'll get back to the article here, uncovering this very suspicious aspect. They'll say something like less people, what do you call that? Unemployment. Well, unemployment was down. Yeah, because the people stop applying for it. Doesn't mean that they have jobs now. But they will present it in a way where it makes it look like everything's going better. Look, unemployment is down. They're going by the amount of people that apply for unemployment. That doesn't count the people that just gave up. They just stopped, or they can't. They're cut off by their state, or they're just living with someone now and you know, doing a job for them, or they're in a gig. Like, there's all of these caveats they use to manipulate information is what I'm saying. Numbers lie, folks. Why do numbers lie? Because numbers are controlled by a person who can lie. So that whole idea that humanity pushes around of men lie, men lie, women lie, numbers don't, is complete nonsense and sounds good to a neophyte. But we're not even close to neophytes. So that sounds good to the nescient. But to one who is actually wise, who has a high level of intellect, we know that that's not true. All things that are controlled by someone tells the story of that someone. Thus, we come to the truth many times of the realization of every truth is half false, right? That sounds wild. It's paradoxical, right? But when you understand that no two eyes see alike, no two minds think alike. My view of the apple being red and your view of the apple being red is not the same red. Our eyes are different. Our minds are different. So that's why they say all truths are half false. So therefore, the information that they're putting out, they can shift it and shape it a certain way, but it's not telling, it's telling a lie. To them, they want it to be a truth because what they're presenting is not wrong. They just didn't show you the entire picture. It is a part of the picture. It's just not the entire picture. And most people don't grasp that. All right, let's continue on here. You think that's it? Wait a minute. No, let me present you more. So the Deputy Chief of Staff to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. So yes, the takeover of the Fed by the U.S. Treasury, the domination of them so that they're not independent and so that they can't go, like they did before, go against the stablecoin and crypto agenda, moves full steam ahead. Wait a minute. Scott Bessent is connected to people that are very high up. I'm just going to say that. Very high up in the U.S. government. And those people in the U.S. government came out with a digital asset stockpile that had XRP on it. Oh, that's so interesting. See, they don't expect, we're the unknown variables. We're the detectives. We're the Socrates of our day. We ask questions. That's what Socrates got in trouble for. You can get it for free. I give people so much free stuff. If you download, I'm not associated with this. It's a nonprofit also. I don't know them. I'm giving it to you. So if you want to partake in wisdom, they have books of all kind, but I just partake in the wisdom books. You want books of all kind for free, LibriVox.org. I've been using it for a long time. And you can find the Apology of Socrates on there. You'll find that he got in trouble and they took him out simply because he was provoking people to ask questions and think. We are the question askers of our day. We are the Socrates of our day, the Platos, the Aristotles. All right. Welcome to the team. All right. Let's continue on here. Wait a minute. This is coming from Seeking Alpha. She is the granddaughter of billionaire Charles Schwab. Really? So no one else. No. You know how many people I came up with and we came up from absolutely nothing and their IQs are through the roof? So no one like that gets that position. but the granddaughter of Charles Schwab does, who the only reason to move someone like that into position. I'm not saying that the individual can't be a brilliant individual. Perhaps they are. I haven't seen that in their background, but perhaps they are as I'm looking. So that is possible. But also it just happens that they have a family connection, and most families look out for family interest that long after these careers are over are going to ensure that the families have generational wealth, even if it's by proxy, where the people start a company and they're getting help from the industry that is familiar with a Charles Schwab. That's a coincidence, huh? Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. All right, let's move on here. So we have Charles Schwab. There was something else. There was another piece of this. Let me scroll down. Bear with me. We're uncovering something amazing. We're living through the change of an age. Just like the fall of Rome and, all of these different empires. They rise, they fall, they rise, they fall. There's change is the only constant. Nothing lasts forever. That's a good thing. That means there's always the possibility for something better. If you look at it as a glass half full type of thing, you're positive and, so this is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So, yeah, so then I was looking into her stance on crypto. I really couldn't find much at all. And so what they're saying is that she pretty much takes the stance of whoever it is that she's working for, which means that that's going to be a super bullish stance on crypto. Folks, look into this for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. I know you're brilliant enough to look into it. I believe in you. Because I know I've interacted with a lot of people on here, and they have a lot of brilliant thoughts, even if they're different from my own. I'm not against that at all. I'm not against that at all. As long as you don't come screaming and yelling at me and things like that, disrespectful, then I don't have a problem with that at all. The person thinking, I don't have a problem with them thinking different than me. Just don't be disrespectful with it. You get what I'm saying? All right. So I'm all for individual thought because I like to think in my own way. All right. As well. Granddaughter of Charles Schwab. We went over that. There was another angle here, and I hope that someone else finds it. There's something I'm forgetting. All right, so we're going to move on from there because I want to get to this here. All right, so now we're going to move on to a little bit of Solana news. I had another article, but we have no time to cover that because it's going to be so dense. So make sure you tune in for the next members only video. Just get in at any level. That one's going to be, I beg your finest pardon. That one's going to be jam-packed full of information, okay? All right, and as you can see, I'm feeling very clear-minded today, and I'm ready to divulge some information. All right, I have my good days, I have my bad days, I have my good, seasons, and then sometimes I might have a little spell where, things are peeving me just a little bit. I might be just a little bit off, but still, you're getting very, very good information. But right now, I feel like I'm back on that rise mentally, like as far as sharpness of intellect and application of wisdom. So I feel like that now. So yeah, definitely want to tune in for this next one. All right. So now this article is titled Solana launches on-chain governance with 100K SOL entry. Folks, they know who this is for. 100,000 SOL staked. How many regular people have 100,000 Solana? Right. Who's been talking about Solana so much, making it so bullish if people are actually keeping up with the news? Financial institutions. Who did Solana say? What was it? Is about 2 years ago. The first time I heard them say they were going after the banks and financial institutions. Then recently this year, they came out, some representative, I don't know who it was. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we covered it here on the channel. Comes out this year and says, yes, we're going after the financial institutions. Like, you already got a few. That's interesting that you say that. Are you making a bigger push? One can only hope, right? But nonetheless, they've made that ambition very clear. Let's read this little tidbit here. So I believe this is for the banks, no doubt about it. They know, they've read the documents that we did. The banks are super excited about the possibility of staking, lending, all of that stuff. And they want pieces for themselves. It's not just for the customers. Really, the customers are just a way for the banks to enrich themselves. They lend out your money and make more money off the people's money than the people do. That's not going to change, all right? So when it comes to staking, they're looking to get a big piece of that pie for themselves, all right? All right. I appreciate all of you. I do. I like you. You're pretty cool. All right. Like, Rick, that sounds lame. Mick, I don't care how it sounds. I speak how I speak. I do what I do. All right. We have one life to live that we know of. Somebody out there's like, no, Mick, we don't live one life. Rebirth. Hey, to each his own. But I'm going to say it like this because it emphasizes the whole energy of memento vivere, memento mori. Remember that you have to live, yes, but remember that you also must die. So that means every day, max out every day, do the best that you can. That's what I'm trying to do. So this article begins here. Solana turned on its formal on-chain governance system, so validators and SOL holders who stake with them can now vote on the network's direction. Any validator with at least 100,000 SOL staked, worth about $8 million. Also validators. Oh, do you think it's going to end there? Since when? But all right. Let's continue on. But this is what they're saying. But it's not going to stop there. But let's continue. Any validator with at least 100,000 SOL staked worth about $8 million can open a proposal, and stakers can override how their validators votes. Solana governance proposals, or SGPs, let qualifying validators ask the network whether Solana should pursue a specific direction. Each proposal is written in plain language. Voting power is based on the amount of SOL staked, and the result is recorded on chain. Before the proposal goes to vote, it must also receive support from 15% of active stake. SGPs answer the broad question, should Solana pursue this direction? Okay, so then they go into the two separate tracks, how proposals pass, but that's all technical stuff. Like, I'm just interested in, is it bullish activity or is it not? And it definitely is bullish activity. Let's move on here to a little bit of Bitcoin news. All right. So far, in my humble opinion, I think all of crypto the setup is beautiful. The positioning is beautiful. They're becoming a fundamental substratum, the ground of the financial system. That's taking some time, of course, but not on our part. It's taking time on the legacy system's part, but they're all in. It's over. In my humble opinion, they're all in. Now it's just a matter of a win, in my humble opinion. Not financial advice, just my humble opinion. All right, so Bitcoin. Even though they were so many articles proclaiming Bitcoin was dead, it was burning to the ground, and woe is me, the apocalypse is near. Bitcoin reclaimed $62,000, more resilience. But I don't know what the future holds, of course, but I'm super bullish on Bitcoin, and I'm satisfied with what's going on. I anticipated all of this, bringing down of prices, manipulation, etc. This is not the worst. I said this years ago. I still feel the same way. I feel that after a massive explosion in price of bank coins and Bitcoin, they all go up together. Let's stop. I wish people stop pretending like they don't. They do. Every time they go up, then Bitcoin's up also. I mean, Bitcoin goes up, they're up also. Bitcoin goes down, they go down also. Everything is still moving together. The legacy system is keeping it so it appears that nothing has changed. Right? There's not a new owner of crypto. New controller. Right. So they're doing that for appearance sake, in my humble opinion. All right. As a researcher, as an investigator, one of the best things one can do is ask the questions that are outside the box that no one else is seeing. If someone were to hire you, you have to be able, if you want to solve cases, you have to see what no one else did. They already had people combing these scenes. They had people go over that documentation. What's the difference between you and them? You're coming in after. So the difference maker would be if you ask questions that no one else did. You have to look at things from angles that everyone else is scared to look at for a variety of reasons. And that's where you crack some cases wide open. Real progress is made there in the questions that are hard to ask and the angles that no one else wants to take. All right, just a little share there. So Bitcoin reclaims $62,000 after jobs report. The U.S. added 57,000 non-farm jobs payrolls in June, significantly below the expected 115,000, which reduced market expectations for a Fed rate hike. All right. That's what you're basing everything on. All right. And propelled Bitcoin's price up over 4%. That's the real catalyst for this. Do you believe that? briefly surpassing $62,000. Fed rate hike. So it's not based on them absolutely having to remove that liquidity before it becomes too much of a problem, because it always was. I said this years ago, and I stand firm still. Things have gotten worse. That's why Warsh came in. He was like, yes, we're going to have to do this. And they already knew he was going to have to do rate hikes, because the other people that used to be in charge before they gutted the Fed should have done rate hikes and ripped the Band-Aid off. If you remember, I used to say that all the time. Get it over with now. They're just kicking the can down the road. That can gets a little bit heavier because the road is on the side of a mountain going uphill. It's going up. Get a little bit more difficult the more they wait. But perhaps that is what they want. Let's continue on here. So Bitcoin's price up over 4%, briefly surpassing $62,000. Market sentiment shift, really. Polymarket and CME Fed Watch data indicated traders lowered rate hike expectations, anticipating the Fed will hold rates steady in July, which boosted confidence in risk assets and facilitated Bitcoin's rebound. Really? That's why. Okay. Analysts highlight that Bitcoin must reclaim $62,500 level to confirm a robust recovery. Is that so? A successful breakout would alter the prevailing market structure and establish the $57,000 low as a mid-cycle bottom. All right, so I have no idea how long this video is now, but I'm going to assume, because I had to chop it right in the middle. I have no idea, so I'm going to assume it's long enough, and I don't want to push it too far. I don't want to keep you too long. All right, but I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching over these last few years, and I've given the best that I can give. I'm going to continue that for as long as I can. All right, so now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the Monday.